My question was, can vegetables be grown inside without a greenhouse? To answer this question, I use a system called aquaculture. This is where plants and fish are both grown in a closed system. The fish waste is used as nutrients for the plants, and the plants give off nutrients for the fish. My project has quite a few problems, but I am still growing some cucumbers and tomato plants along with green onions. The first thing that was done for this project was to get the fish tank working. The fish were set up for a tank for about 6 months. We gathered 6 containers for the system. I painted them and got them ready for organizing them. We set up containers for the agriculture system. We built the stands for the containers to sit on, making sure that they were leveled. We set them up in a sunning window. We drilled the holes in the center of the containers down near the bottom for the water pipes to be inserted into, and to allow the water to remain a little in the bottom so that the roots of the plants would be directed down. We drilled holes in the water pipe vertically so that the pea rocks would not get into the tubing to plug up the system. We ran water through to see if there were any leaks for the pipes that were the containers, and could at this time put more pipe glue into the system. We set up the tubes for the water going from the fish tank into the top containers with a water pump. Once the water has filled to the plant containers, it is gradually fed into the lower containers and back to the fish tank. We drilled holes into the water pipe to control the flow of the water so that the air for the fish was sufficient and so that the water was not too forceful as to hurt the plants. We had to add more holes to the water pipes as the top of agriculture containers, as the one hole that we had poured the water too hard onto the plants and was breaking them. The multiple holes gave us more control over the water flow, and so by spreading them out over the length of the pipe, we actually had the water pumping at a faster rate for the fish but less water pressure on the plants. We got a submersible water pump that is used for small water fountains. We fitted this with a rubber tube, the length that would reach from the fish tank to the top containers of the agriculture containers, so that the only water that needed to be pumped was at this one level, and then the rest of the water is gradually fed from the back of the top containers into the next level containers, and then into the fish tank, where the cycle starts again through the tubing from the fish tank back into the top. Then we added the fish to the tank below the agriculture system. We got the pea rocks and washed them before placing the rocks into the containers to plant the seedlings into. We let the water run over the rocks for the nutrients to sink before planting. After that, we planted the seeds on the vegetables that we wanted to grow for food. We planted the seeds on December 4th. We planted the seeds in starter containers because the seeds needed to sprout and root, and the easier way to do this was by using dirt or soil for the holding of the water and for the added nutrients from the soil. When I started the project, I had watermelon, peppers, corn, beans, celery, leeks, zucchini, lettuce, and peas. In addition to the tomatoes and cucumber plants, everything sprouted. The watermelon was growing okay. The beans and peas were growing really well. I tied them up to a tall string so that they could continue to climb. They were about 12 to 16 inches long, but they did not grow so well after being transplanted from the starter containers. The same thing happened with the corn. It started well, but after it was planted to agriculture containers, it didn't grow very well. Okay, they died. Some of the plants sprouted within a few days. This was due to the fish water and the added nutrients compared to regular water. We watered the seeds almost daily until they sprouted. We watered with more of a mist than just pouring water on the seeds. Some days we used fish water and altered with regular water on the other days. We continued to water them until they were rooted. Some of them sprouted on the 5th day, and then they continued to grow. We waited for a few weeks for the roots to strengthen, and then we planted the vegetables in the rocks in the containers. We continued to feed the fish and let the water run through the system. We ran into trouble with the agriculture system because of the unusual cold weather outside and the heater in the house having trouble maintaining the temperature. The water traveling over the pipes created a cool airflow. We moved the fish to a separate tank, not a part of the agriculture system. We continued to water the plants with the fish water by hand. The plants were growing. I think that the air was not warm enough for the plants to thrive as well as they should have. Then we ran into trouble with the filter on the fish tank. The tank was overloaded with waste material and clogged the filter, so that the fish ended up dead. This would not have been the case, most likely, if the fish had stayed in the agriculture system, as the rocks and plants acted as the filter. There was also a water vacuum that would have helped to remove the waste, but we didn't know about it until after the fish were dead. The plants that were not in the top plant containers did not seem to get enough light and withered. We continued to plant the seeds in the rocks and hand water them. Some of the plants have gotten fairly big, not big enough to fruit yet, although one plant has a blossom on it, so it appears that fruit will follow. The cucumber plants have quite a few leaves on them, especially for their height. I presume this is from the fish wire they received when they were first growing. I think if two things were different, one, the plants should be more mature before planting them into the agriculture system, perhaps growing them during the summer months outside of bringing them in from the winter, after they have matured, and two, grow light, especially for the lower level of containers that did not receive as much light. If the plants had been more mature, they would have been taller and possibly gotten more light. That way, the grow lights really would have helped with warming the plants, which was needed for a successful system. After this project, I feel that it was important. It was possible to grow vegetables indoors in the winter. I think that it was more complicated than I have originally thought. The space needed to produce the plants was not very much, but keeping the plants warm enough was a problem, and how to handling grow lights would all have to be addressed. Once the problems are worked out, I think it would be a good way for families to get fresh organic vegetables for a reasonable cost.